Hi, this is Michelle with Colorado Model Railroad Museum and STEAM Kids Virtual Classroom. This month we get to look at geology, which is something that has been a favorite topic of mine since I was a little girl. I used to go out and study landscapes with my dad and go rock hunting in the state of Wyoming as a kid. So I really love talking about rocks, and I'm excited to share with you today what we call the rock cycle. Our planet, our whole geosphere, is made up of rock, and rock goes through different phases and becomes different kinds of rock. Isn't that interesting? It takes a whole lot of time to make it happen though. So let's talk about the rock cycle today. I'm going to draw it on paper, and then I have examples to show you as we go through each one. So we have three kinds of rocks. I'm going to draw a rock here, and a rock here, and a rock here. And you have a piece of paper in your kit that you can pull out and do this if you want to. So I have to turn it over to right though. I can't write upside down yet. I've been practicing though. This one is called Igneous. So let's talk about igneous rock. My igneous rock is over here, and I'll pull it this way. Igneous rock is rock that has been molten. Here's an example. This is obsidian. Can you see how dense it looks? And it's kind of shiny because this comes from a molten lava or a magma. This one is called pumice, and I wish that you were here with me to pick these up because this one is really, really lightweight, and this one's really heavy. This one was a lava that had a lot of air in it and dried very, very loosely. And these occur in nature. I also have these rocks, and these, interestingly enough, are man-made obsidian rock. They used to be normal rock, kind of like this one. This is a standard kind of rock. And when it gets melted in a giant smelter, comes out like this. I have a little story about these two right here. In our state, in Colorado, there was a railroad that went out of Leadville, Colorado, called the Colorado and Southern Railroad. It was built to go from the town of Leadville up to the Climax mine. Climax is a mine that they pull out the mineral called molybdenum. Can you say that? Molybdenum. It's a really hard one. Molybdenum is a product that's used to create steel. But to get the molybdenum out of a rock like this, you have to melt this rock, and what's left over is called slag, and that's what this is. And this slag I picked up off of the railroad because they use it as ballast. The Colorado and Southern Railroad used the slag from the mine to make ballast. And ballast, is the rock that's around the rail. And so this, because it was molten and melted, is an igneous rock. And so that's a really good example of that. So what happens on our planet that takes this kind of rock and breaks it down? We have weather, we have water. So there's all sorts of weather patterns going on, and there's usually water involved in it, and that is going, so if we have erosion, let's see if I can write upside down, erosion, that means when water wears away rock. Then what we have is called sedimentary rock, and I do have to send it around, sedimentary, I know that's a big word. Sedimentary rock. Now what happens is erosion happens, weathering happens, decomposition happens, and we're going to go on an expedition for next week and look at how this happens in nature with a river. But what happens is all that stuff happens to the rock, and it breaks it down, and you end up with sediment. And the sediment gets kind of cemented together like these two rocks. This one is sediment of fossil. I don't know if you can see the bits of seashell embedded in the rock, especially right here in this area. That is part of a seashell. Here's a full shell. We use this in our paleontology lessons, and this is the rock that I found in Wyoming with my dad. This one is another kind, but this, if you notice, it's shiny. As I move it around, it should sparkle for you. This has pyrite in it. This is a sedimentary rock made up of quite a few different kinds of rocks and minerals. Multiple minerals in here make up that shiny part. Do you see all the layers? There's so many layers and so much going on in this rock. I think it's really pretty. And look, it's even coming apart as I touch it because it's made up of sediment. See how it came off on my paper? That's a sedimentary rock. I also have, that's kind of the first stage of sediment, but it also gets a little more cemented and compressed, and it's still considered sedimentary. I knocked the rock up there. This is an interesting rock that I found as a kid, and I don't know if you can see that hole, but that hole was caused by a drop of water. Drip, drip, drip. Probably over a century, or maybe even longer, to cause the erosion in that hole. So the water would drip and drip and drip. And it looks like there was a drip here and another one here. So this rock sat in a very still place for a very long time. But that is a really good example of erosion and what it does to rocks. It didn't quite go all the way through, but it definitely eroded it down. So another type of sedimentary is this, just kind of a basic rock, but you can see it's made up of a lot of different minerals and kinds, lots of particulates, but you can still kind of make out the individual parts and colors, so it's still a sedimentary rock. So what happens next in the rock cycle is you take a rock like this one and you apply heat and pressure to it. So imagine the pressure of just so much land above it pushing down on it, the pressure of the earth pushing down if this was deep in the earth, and then the heat from the core of the earth making it hot. And what happens is you get this rock right here. So this rock, you see the sediments are all compressed together, very compressed. Can you see? This is called a metamorphic rock because heat and pressure was applied to a sedimentary rock, which made it metamorphic. Here's another example. This is marble. See how solid that is? And then this one's called gneiss, and it's just kind of a standard rock. Most of the rocks we find are metamorphic rocks called gneiss. And you might notice there's a number on this rock because I borrowed this one from the Poudre Learning Center, and they have a kit where they can show you all the different kinds of rocks. So let me write that word out for us, metamorphic. Metamorphic. And so sedimentary becomes metamorphic with heat and pressure. In your kit, you have this, but I kind of wanted you to draw it out so you could understand. And then metamorphic rock, when it becomes molten, let's see if I can write the word, T-E-N. Remember what I said at the beginning? This rock, you melt it down and you get igneous, and we're back at the beginning. It's just a cycle round and round and round, and the earth is always changing, and over time and millennia we have all these kinds of rock. So let's do a little fun example with some food as to how this rock cycle works. So let me put these guys back out here. In your kit, I think this is a really fun way to look at this. You have a little pack of Starbursts. So what we're going to do, first we're going to create sedimentary rocks. So you got to open your Starburst up. And these are not wrapped. We're used to the wrapped ones, but these come this way. So pick out like 6 of different colored ones. I'll do an orange, or I'll do 2 of each color. We'll just sort it out. If I have another dark red, looks like I don't. So we'll just do this many here. That looks good. These over here you can eat. But the ones we're going to work with, don't eat them because we're going to work with them. Now, take some scissors, and you might have to have your parents help you. We're going to cut them into quarters. We're going to erode them with our scissors as if they had fallen down off of a mountain and hit a rock and busted into pieces. That's a natural occurring decomposition of rocks. Or they could have been in a river and flowing through the current, and maybe there was even a flood where the water was really moving and they hit another rock and they broke into pieces. So we are going to decompose these into smaller rock. So just cut them up. And this is honestly kind of like gravel that you find outside. It's pulverized rock that has been cut down or broken down through natural causes. Sometimes unnatural causes, but usually just nature will do it. You get a bad storm, things like that. So we're cutting them up. I'm almost done here. And you want to choose different colors so that you can kind of get a good idea. The colors of these are going to help us understand what's going on. So don't pick all the yellow ones. Make sure you choose some colors together. Okay, so now I have a whole lot of pebbles here. and they've come down a river. Maybe they're river rock, maybe they've fallen off a mountain. And what happens is over time, they kind of get pushed together a little bit. So take them, squeeze them just a little bit together on the paper. They kind of stick a little bit, you'll notice. And then I'm going to pick it up and put it in my hand, and I'm going to just squeeze it. So now I'm the land, and I'm pushing down on it a little bit. And I'm just going to squeeze that, and look what I have. I have a rock, and this little piece fell off, but he can just get pressed right back on there. And doesn't it look like this rock? Lots of pieces put together, but you can still tell the aggregate of what is what. So we made, what kind of rock? Sedimentary. We have now made a sedimentary rock. Now, let's make a metamorphic rock. And to do this, we used erosion to create sedimentary, but now what we need is heat and pressure to create metamorphic. So I want you to put it in here in your Ziploc bag, just because otherwise it'll get a little sticky on your hands. But what we're gonna do is put it in there, and we're gonna apply some heat from my hand. I'm gonna warm it up a little bit. You could also set it in some sunshine if you have a little sunny spot in your house, wherever you're doing this. Let it set for a few minutes, or my hands are pretty warm, so I'm getting it pretty warm. And now what I'm gonna do is really squeeze my hands together too. And now I'm gonna start working with it, because I've gotten it warm. And just start squeezing it. We gotta apply the pressure of the earth, the pressure of moving mountains, the pressure of water going over and over. And you see what's happening? It's becoming more like this rock. It's blending together more. You can't see the edges between the colors. And just work with that for a while, and you'll get a really good rock. I'm gonna go ahead and take it back out, because I want to make mine a little more round, which you can do. You can just fold it, bead the earth, really give it some pressure. Imagine that you're 10 miles underground, and it's all this heat and pressure, and we're creating just quite a rock. You could even take a book and smash it. What do you think? I think it's getting pretty good. Can you see how you still see some swirls and lines like you do here? We can see some colors. Metamorphic rock. Heat and pressure applied. So now we want to take it back to igneous rock. So what do we have to do? We have to melt it. So you also have a cup, and this is where you definitely need your parents' help. Put it in the cup, and you're going to microwave it for 30 seconds. And because I don't have a microwave here, I've done it earlier, and I want you to see the difference. Can you see? This is pre-microwave. This is metamorphic rock. This is igneous. That was 30 seconds in the microwave, and I've created a whole new kind of rock. And I left it in there because I wanted to take it out while I was talking to you, because listen to this. Do you hear that? That's that igneous rock being eroded and breaking up and becoming sedimentary rock as I pull it out of the cup. Which, if you cut your cup, you can kind of peel it down, and you can get to that rock that's down in there. And look, I eroded a bunch of it off just by squeezing it. I created sedimentary rock there off of my igneous rock here, which may stick to the cup, we'll see. Nope, there we go. Do you see how that happens? That's the rock cycle. So, thank you for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed this rock lesson. Next week we go to the Poudre Learning Center for an expedition adventure, and we're going to learn about a river. It's going to be really exciting. Thanks for coming today. Bye.